Welcome to the Michael Sonbeek Talks to People podcast. My first guest, Joe Fasaro from MLB.com. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Michael, hey, thanks for having me.
This is a long time in the makings.
Yeah. This is all the negotiations. We got to let all the powers that be work out the details, and then once we figured out how to make the video work, here we go.
Yeah. So you want to go right into it. So what happened yesterday? Why Harlan Garcia got taken out after 77 pitches? I see everyone's like going crazy about it because this reminds me of when Conley was taken out a couple years ago, which I understood because there was like 130 pitches, but 77 pitches, that seems a little weird to me.
Yeah. This is Harlan's been kind of the most handled with care guy they've had all spring. I mean, they didn't even want him on the big league club. They basically they were transitioning him to the bullpen and wanted him in Double A, and they could completely monitor everything he does, and that's where he was until Straley and a few others at the end of camp, and Hernandez getting hurt and stuff. So he kind of made the team as a long reliever. Next thing you know, he's like been their best pitcher. He throws the 6 innings of relief in the 17-inning game, and then the 4 innings to pick up innings in Philadelphia over the weekend. The next thing you know, he's in the big league rotation, and they still were wanting to monitor the innings and the pitches. And I get it what Donnie did, and he also understood it's not popular and 77 pitches, but 77 is already a career high. He had never thrown more than 73. Keep in mind, last year's his first year in the bigs, and I think he had a couple of 2-inning outings, and that's about it. So, going 6, yeah, he was kind of laboring a little bit. And so I get it. They're looking at a lot of this year, guys, says this guy's going to be throwing 120 innings, no more. So however they're going to get it, and obviously this isn't a World Series favorite by any stretch. So, they don't want to see the kid go out those 7, 8. And Donnie's right. He was to go 9 would have been about 120, 130 pitches would have been ridiculous. And then if he's seeing a doctor this morning, we'd all be yelling that way too. So so I get it. Under the context, to me, more telling was the 8th inning yesterday with his decision to pull Guerrero against the 2 lefties to go with O'Grady, and Guerrero has the electric stuff. What do you got to lose? You want to see if this guy can handle the high leverage. He hits Plawecki and probably did some damage there, and then he gets the strikeout. Then they go to Conforto and Gonzalez, and you see the Mets didn't even blink. When O'Grady came in, they didn't certainly go to righty bat, and both those guys got the hits. And then next thing you know, what could have been a really exciting 1-0 type of win with a combined no hitter or combined 1 hitter, whatever, turns into one of their more heartbreaking losses. So
yeah, do you think that has more to do with Don? I mean, not more to do, but like a lot to do with just Don over managing this?
Yeah, it wasn't his greatest night. I think that he was playing percentages, and in fairness, like Mattingly said, the Garcia aspect of the game was the easy one. That the kid wasn't going to go 9. Like I said, they're handling him with care anyway. He said he could keep going. You would have liked to have seen, hey, give him the 7th. And even if you're looking at, to me, if you're looking at the context of, I think he would have been built up to about 90, because Don did kind of admit that he could probably go about 90. So if he goes 7 1/3 or 7 2/3 and 90 to 95 pitches, is that really going to change too much? I think that helps you win the game.
Yeah.
Because then you could go Steck in the 8th, and then however you wanted to handle the 9, Ziegler or a combination of anything. If you don't want to go with Brad because pitch the night before, and then maybe it's 1-0. A 1 hitter going into the 9th, and then you're 3 outs from the win, not 6 outs from the win. So, I would have liked to seen him push him to 90 pitches. Was he laboring a bit? Yeah. He got behind in counts, but he also was so efficient early. And, so bottom of the order, I think that got to the top of the order, because what Frazier got to hit. So I think, they're going analytics, we want them to do that, and they're playing that. So the whole three times through, looking at the percentages, and he kind of pulled it there. But I think, right now, as Mattingly is trying to figure out what he's got, he's trying and testing, who can handle what. And part of that, to me, would be maybe you're not managing as much by the book as say, yeah, obviously you don't want to hurt Garcia. That'd be the last thing you want to do. But, maybe he gets the 7th and he comes out after 90 pitches and a no-hitter. Then it really would have been a conversation, but I think it helps you win the game.
Yeah. Do you think it has anything to do? Do you think that would have an effect on Garcia's confidence at all?
No,
getting
knowing
old.
Harlan is as loosey goosey as it comes. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot to like. Hey, talk about him in spring training. Let me give you a quick anecdote. Spring training, we go back and at first they're like, Garcia, is he going to be long? Is he going to be bullpen? Because
Mhm.
keep in mind, he was the best lefty they had last year. The numbers at the end of the year kind of look, I heard people saying, oh, 4.7 ERA, blah blah
Yeah, they
blah.
were skewed a little.
And I even heard like the Fangraphs people, hitting on him pretty good, like not very good, but I thought he was really good.
Yeah.
I think he was. This is a guy who's had arm issues in the last couple of years as in minor leagues. They made the decision to get him into a reliever role where he could have been really effective, and he was. But as a lot of young guys, once you get into that August September type of time frame, you're not used to being, and the leverage is a lot higher in the big leagues,
Mhm.
especially as you start pushing it into the dog days of summer and every at bat. It's not like minor leagues. You could cruise for, you may have three guys in that lineup that may find the big leagues in Double A.
Yeah.
And and then you got six guys you could play around with to make your numbers look really good. So I thought Garcia was really good. I thought they probably should have kept him in the pen, but when they made that decision to go with him in the rotation, again
Mhm.
they were going to baby him. But when Donnie said for sure he's in the rotation, I wrote he will be. Maybe this is a two-man rotation that they're looking at, in terms of jobs opening. Australia wasn't hurt at the time when Australia and Urania were in. So I'm like, I already had Garcia in because there wasn't anyone better, at
Yeah.
least at this time. Sandy could be better, but I could see why he's not here right now.
Mhm.
And then they were like, hey, Joe, back that off. Don't let it get out there like he thinks he's already made the club as a starter because we have a plan for him.
Mhm.
So, that's where that stood. Now, next thing you know, he makes the club, like I said, when he really wasn't supposed to. And it was not that his talent wasn't supposed to get him there. It was the whole combination of the big picture, who is more ready right now to take you through April. So, Harlan basically forces their hand. What are you going to do? You can throw 6 shutout against the Cubs. You throw 4, pretty much 4 shutout. Okay, he gave up the home run in Philly, but that was in his 4th inning. He had 9, 10 innings, 2 runs going into yesterday. So, the Marlins could look at it this way. Did they send him down to Double A? Heard him like saying, from his perspective, what more do I have to do? I've got 10 innings on my belt and probably your best pitcher in the big leagues. Go to Double A to pitch my way back to the big leagues.
Yeah.
So they just like, hey, you know what? We'll monitor his innings, but
Mhm.
let's monitor his innings up here right now.
Yeah.
So let him do his thing, and he comes out. And what was the fact? It's not that he's electric, it's not
Mhm.
sale type stuff, but a lot of fast out, a lot of quick contact, gets enough swings. The slider, he's showing a 3-pitch mix, and now the question is, we know it's all there. The question is, can you get that for 6 innings? And which pretty much in today's age, if you get 6 innings, you're number 3 starter in the big leagues. You get 7, you're 2 or 1.
Mhm.
So so he's knocking on the door to be that middle of the rotation lefty, and you had to be very encouraged. And knowing Harlan's personality, he's a go with the flow kid. He's homegrown. He's been here. He's happy to be here, and he's just wanting to help the team. So he's kind of gets it. Like he said, they told him we're looking at the big picture. We're not just looking at one night in April.
Mhm.
Which everyone will forget about 2 months from now anyway. So
Yeah.
so that aspect of it, I get, and I think he's going to be fine. And from Marlins fans' perspective, that's really encouraging to see Harlan Garcia come out and do that type of stuff. And Zach Wheeler was electric last night himself. So you basically put your team with the late inning lead. The pen doesn't get it done. That was going to be a 1-0 win or a 2-3, whatever 4-1 losses ended up being. So they were either going to blow it or win 1-0 the way that game was going.
Yeah, and this is what this kind of season is going to be like for the Marlins, which can get frustrating for fans, is just building up the process of these prospects, and sometimes the managerial results aren't going to be there, or the decision's not going to be in favor. So like we basically will never see Harlan Garcia go more than 6 innings in a game this season.
No, well, this year probably not. But let's reflect to when Jose was a rookie. They didn't let him go 6 innings. It was barely he goes 6. He never saw 7. I think Jose. His last start, I think he threw 8. I think he only threw 1 or twice his whole tenure was an 8-inning thing. So they're
Yeah,
very careful.
yeah, yeah.
Harlan doesn't have the history of it. I think he threw 120-ish or whatever. I had to double check that because there's so many of these pitchers that I'm looking at numbers like that. And that was like 2 or 3 years ago. So he's already done it. but he threw 53 innings in the bigs last year, and then he had a little bit of minor league, as he started the year in AAA, I think it was, or maybe even AA, and then they called him up. So Harlan, yeah, if he's going 7 innings, that means he was at 70 pitches, So to hit that, yeah, I think more than innings, Mike, we got to look at pitches. If he's efficient enough to keep that under 100, then he's going to be there. Straley, you can push to 115. But but Harlan right now, I don't think that really helps where they want to be. As this thing moves forward.
So keeping on the prospect talk, when you look at Lewis Brinson, what do you see that's wrong right now? Do you see the same struggles he had last year in Milwaukee? Or
yeah, I see it's the recognition of the breaking ball. The thing about Brinson, let's keep this in mind. Brinson forced their hand to make this team. I think ideally they wanted him in AAA to start this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think ideally they're like, you know what, another half a year in AAA would not hurt. But he played so well in spring training, and yes, spring training is a great tease. It can fool you. But the thing about spring training was he was hitting the off-speed stuff. He was taking the ball the other way. His swing, I'm still trying to figure him out. Brinson's amazingly athletic. He's amazingly toolsy. And, it's all there. The work ethic is really off the charts. And he's put numbers where he's needed to be. So his clock may click a little bit later. He's not, but the thing, Michael, what I've noticed with Brinson is he's not that pure hitter. He didn't have the Yelich swing when Yelich came up. Ozuna had the raw power and the real fast bat and could hit fastballs and do some, I think Ozuna didn't know how good he was until like last year. Brinson's really good. The thing with Brinson is it's going to be that pitch rate. He's not going to be some 300 hitter, but he's going to be that 260 to 280 hitter. He's got to get to the 330 or ish, on base. But he's going to give you numbers. He's going to give you power, and his defense is really good. So he's going to be a 20-20 guy, and then maybe take it to a 30-30 guy. He's a little bit older. I saw some people tweet that he'll be 24 next month. So he's not the baby of the group, but he's right now that swing is not. His swing has holes. And he is seeing I just wrote today in my inbox, 46% of the pitches he's seeing are breaking balls. And that's all off speed. So that's changeups, that's curveballs. So he's not seeing fastballs. And so his problem right now is how do you, recognize what you're supposed to be doing? And I don't see him going at all to right field. I see him just struggling to put the bat in the ball. The 0 for 25 it could be demoralizing, except for this kid's got really good resolve. His makeup's off the chart, his work is off the charts, and where they're wrestling as an organization is he already hit 330, I think, a year, 320, whatever it was at AAA last year in over 100 games.
Yeah.
Some point of development, especially on this club, where again they're not planning on big parades in October. So on this club, you're looking at some guys are going to get the development right here. And they're going to get the development against Syndergaard. They're going to get the development against, Sale. They're going to get it against Lester. They're going to get it, they faced all aces, and everyone's, he went one game, I think, in Philly. I think he saw 17 pitches, and the first 3 he saw were 4-seam fastballs, and every pitch after that was a breaking ball or slider. So until he can handle that, he's not going to see anything but that. Now, if he never gets a hit, could he go back to AAA? Of course. But, they're going to give him a lot of rope, and a lot of slack.
They really want him to figure it out here.
They want him to figure it out. And you know what? If he's hitting 220 by the break, whatever, then we'll have this we do this in August. We might look around and Brinson could be hitting 240, but 300 from May 30th on, Yeah. So you don't quit on talent. That's the thing. You can get frustrated, and I get it. And fans, you don't want to demoralize the kid, and I don't think they're going to. And what else is hurting him is Sierra's in the same boat. And Sierra missed all the spring with a hamstring. If you notice at AAA, he's got 1 or 2 hits or something. But he's going to be fine. But you miss 3 weeks of spring training, and you start fast, you might be the only guy I've ever seen do that. Guys do not miss spring training anything more than a week and just light it up the first 2 weeks of the season. Yeah. So, that's just the way it is. It's, your body, your clock isn't there, so I'm not really worried about Sierra, but, I'm worried about Brinson, that psyche, and there's no mystery. He's
Mhm.
seeing, like I said, 46% off speed. And when you monitor those, for all you people out there, when you monitor Lewis Brinson, just look at that percentage. And if you don't know how to look it up, I do, and I'll put it out there for you. When he starts hitting that, that's when we're going to know that he's turning the corner.
Mhm. I mean, I thought it was a curious decision to hit him lead off from the get go. I thought that was another thing Don Mattingly overthought because, I mean, to get him all those at bat, I don't know. I just think that was a bad decision on their end
Well,
and
you're not alone.
wasn't good for him.
You're not alone, but I differ and only in this sense. When Stanton moved to the 2 hole last year, what I had just noticed with Stanton, Stanton was a guy with all of his injuries, missed so much spring training, and then his injuries, he missed so much season. So he didn't play a lot of baseball. He didn't see pitches. And Stanton, when he was hitting cleanup, sometimes he wasn't involved in the game.
Mhm.
Either the inning ended before he got up, either he was leading off, he was coming to bat every third inning or so. When he hit second, and then all of a sudden you start looking, he got into the game, and now he kind of made up the at bats that he had been missing.
Yeah.
And and then all of a sudden you're like looking when let's say Riddle was in the lineup hitting seventh or eighth. You're like, well, this guy could get on base, and now all of a sudden there's Stanton lurking. Number 8 hitters up, and there's their little Russell, and then Stanton getting all excited, getting ready to hit.
Mhm.
A couple of batters later. Brinson to me was the same thing. It's not that I liked him leading off for the fact I wanted him engaged in the game early. Again, I'm not looking at Ricky Henderson. I'm not looking at a guy that's going to go steal 50 bags and be the traditional guy that's going to get on and be the table setter. I wanted to see him involved and see him get as many opportunities.
Mhm.
And early on, it worked. First 3 or so games, he had some hits, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, nothing. But everything was moving and sliding, and he didn't catch on enough that now all of a sudden those extra at bats where, oh my God, you're wearing him out. He's facing everyone's best pitcher. You're hurting the team.
Mhm.
So it kind of was working in spring. Now I get it. You want to kind of protect him a little bit. But again, my philosophy was more in engage him, get him as much opportunity rather than, but I get it. There's a lot of people that agree with you, and I might be wrong, but I get that aspect of it. I kind of wanted him tested, and I wanted to see what he did. Now the fact that it didn't work out, it's easy to go, boy, well, he was exposed.
Yeah.
But what if he had extra at bats against Lester in the success, extra at bats against Arrieta in the success, that type of stuff's like, okay, now what could this season look? It could be looking like Anderson's season.
Mhm. That's by far been the best bright spot for the Marlins was Anderson. So what do you think happens there when Prado's ready?
First, I want to make
That's
sure
a lot of
Prado's
money
ready.
on the bench.
Yeah. And it won't be. I want Prado completely healthy because the thing about it is, my feeling is Prado with his legs being as tender as they are, he had that meniscus. He's technically on the DL with a left hamstring strain. That's what he got at the World Baseball Classic and never got over.
Yeah.
But the reason why he didn't play the second half of the season was he had a meniscus tear in his right knee.
Okay.
So that's why he came in the spring. Now both legs are gone. So Marlins Park, you've been there, right?
Yeah.
How big is that? How big is that outfield? It's pretty darn big.
Yeah.
And do you want Martin Prado, who has played the outfield, to be running around out there? The answer is no. So the answer is, and Mattingly kind of without saying it said it, the best hitters are going to hit. You want Prado's back in the lineup.
Yeah.
So either Prado's at third and Anderson's in left field, and Dietrich's now in right field because Cooper is on the DL for what's going to be a while. You're not going to have a very good defensive outfield. That's why you probably need Brinson as well. But I can see them looking a little bit like the Joe Madden Tampa Bay Rays, where he could be 3 innings in left, 2 innings at third base, and so it's going to be everything's going to be. He could be like Chris Taylor last year in LA. He could, all of a sudden you could see Anderson in left, you could see him at third, you could see him at first. If they want to double switch out of there, and you also could see Prado at first. I really don't see Prado anywhere but third or first.
Yeah,
because they're not going to make him run. But Prado may only be good for 5 innings.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have to go in that type of thing. So it's going to be fun. We're going to see their creativity, which is kind of funny because their outfield defense on paper, when they kind of were putting this together in a vision of a Brinson, a Sierra, maybe Lee as either the regular guy or that guy off the bench,
Mm-hmm.
this ridiculously fast defensive outfield that's going to run everything down.
Yeah.
You conceivably could have Brinson, who's not hitting but can field, being flanked by right fielder Derek Dietrich and left fielder Brian Anderson.
Yeah.
So you're going to need maybe you're going to need some ground ball guys. When those that alignment's going on.
Mm-hmm. But do you still think they'll do whatever they can to try to unload Prado? If that's the hope, right? He does good when he comes back, and a team either wants him at the deadline or in the offseason.
Yeah, that could be the ultimate, great scenario. But really, what are you going to get from Martin Prado? So you got to ask yourself.
Don't you just want? I mean, for the owners,
you could. Yes, I get.
You want his contract off the books.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, you're not really going to be getting much, and I guess you could unload all of it. But you're probably going to have to eat a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you're only going to a contender. So first of all, Prado's got to prove health, and then you got to ask yourself: are we a better team with this team being this young? And do we need Prado here? At least even if he plays half a season, yeah, he's going to be making a heck of a lot of money for half a season. Yes, there are things that seem easier in theory more than the reality of what it does to. Because it's easy to say just get rid of him.
Yeah,
get rid of the money and whatnot. But now you got a bunch of guys. Let's say the second half comes and Anderson's really starting to hit the wall. Now what are you doing? You get Mike Aviles off the waiver wire. I mean, you still have to perform at the big league level. So there's value to the team to have Martin Prado on this team if he can play. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if he play, and I don't think there's really going to be enough time for Prado to. At least a deadline to show that he's going to be some value that the Yankees could sit around and go, oh my God, we got to get Prado. And that's going to be, and maybe there could be an August trade. He wouldn't necessarily, because things do happen to contenders and they panic and they may do something. But I want to see Prado give me 2 months without worrying about if the knees and the hammy are going to blow up again, because I'm having my doubts, because every time he's been ready, he's had a setback.
Yeah. So, but odds are, if you were a betting man, he's a DH for the rest of his career, and he belongs in the American League.
Probably, yeah. Or he sits around and goes, you know what, I'm just going to hang it up. I got a small child, and I'm going to enjoy my family time, and then I'm going to go be a manager in the big leagues. Yeah. Because I think that's where he's going to be. He's a baseball player, and what real DHs are not power guys. So. I could see him, being that American League, because as long as he can move around a bit, he could play first and third for you. And, he looks good. That's the thing. He's in really good shape, but the legs have to hold up enough for him.
Mm-hmm. So probably no one has been around the Marlins locker room more than you over the past, 12 years, 14 years?
Since 2002, whatever that is.
So 16 years.
16, 17, yeah.
Do you see a big difference between a Loria era group, let's say just last year and this year, just clubhouse chemistry, everything wise?
Yes, and that, I'm not going to knock on Jeffrey, because I like Jeffrey, I'm going to, I know all the bad about Jeffrey. I get all that. I know all the weirdness of being a Marlins fan and a player on the Marlins and the history of it. But you have to keep this in mind. Jeffrey was going for it the last few years.
Yeah.
Jeffrey knew at some point he was selling, and probably when he did, he knew that the 16-17 seasons were going to be crucial, because the All-Star game coming in 16 was going so well until obviously the injuries late, and then the terrible tragedy and with Jose, which, that kind of, and I know the Herald's kind of reported it as well, and I've had too, that team was recommended in 17 to be broken up.
Yeah.
That everyone knew their shortcomings. Everyone knew they didn't have organizational depth. Everyone knew. So you could do two things. The owner can mandate, I am not breaking this team up. So what do you tell the front office? You tell them, look, we have no trade pieces, and we basically have money that we're spending, but only to a limit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're not, and they're like, look, there's really no starting pitching to throw big money in. You're not replacing Jose anyway.
Yeah.
So we're going to be a bullpen team. So consequently, comes in Ziegler, who offered, the underhand look. You have Tozawa comes over with the split. Both have had, success. You mix them in with Claw, Phelps, Ramos. Now you're going to bullpen them. And then what you do, it look good on paper because then you're going to get Volquez, who is never got hurt.
Yeah.
A durable guy. So we're going to get a bunch of guys that could go 5-6 innings and pick them up and mix and match. And every single one of those guys, from Connolly, being demoted early because he wasn't doing well, and to Kohler having a terrible start to getting himself sent out, to, Volquez losing his first 7 starts, throws to no-hitter, the highlight of the year, besides Stanton from the pitching standpoint, and Chen gave you 5 starts. So it all blew up. And then what happened was Stanton saved the season.
Yeah.
Ozuna was great, and Stanton did something historical. So this illusion that, and then they made up their ground when the season really was over and everyone else had tanked, like the Mets had pulled out, all these teams that tanked, and the Marlins won their share against teams that tanked. And then when they played good teams, they didn't win there. And somehow people thought that only 5 games out for the second wild card, which pretty much still is a far distance, is really easy to do. Mm-hmm. So Loria went for it. He went for it. And so Jeter comes in with wide open eyes. He's like, look, this is what I'm buying, and this is what I'm buying. I could keep it together and know that we'd have this conversation, because they very easily could have been 3-9 returning last year's team because of the holes. And because Yelich is hurt, Stanton's off to a slow start, so what do you have there? You'd have no organizational depth. So what he did was, he did what the one common thing Marlin fans have seen. He stripped it down.
Yeah.
We've seen that before. Mm-hmm. But right now, I see a better organization than I've seen in 6 years because of Brinson, Harrison, Diaz, Alcantara, Guzman, Pablo Lopez, who is going to be a guy that Miranda Gonzalez. These are like the Mets are already kicking themselves for throwing him in the AJ Ramos deal. And no one knows who Pablo Lopez is. They got him in the David Phelps trade, and that guy's going to be really good. And they got layers of pitchers that they did. That's why they don't have R.A. Dickey on this team or go get Nolasco. I looked at this year, and I'll give you guys this kind of theme that I even presented to my company. As I said, I'm covering in an organization this year as much as I'm covering a 25-man big league roster. Mm-hmm. This is about an organizational build and the discipline already that Jeter is showing, and the fact that these players and the people that they're keeping and the people that don't want to be here, they're not here, and the people that want to be here are here, and they're buying in. Now 3-9, you could say, oh, here we go again, and I get it, and yeah, if you look at the record, and the record's gonna be worse than last year. The question is how much. It's going to seem on the surface this is business as usual.
Yeah.
But the Derek Jeter thing is there's more signage already in the ballpark. There's more of a plan on how they're going to get a name on this building. There's already, talks going on with Fox Sports to get a real TV contract. That's not like 20 million, a year, which is not even close to by far. It is by far the lowest in baseball. Mm-hmm. When you got teams like Arizona at 93 million and Philadelphia, you got to be competitive with your revenue streams. Mm-hmm. And Jeter is working that daily. So that culture is going on. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and from the clubhouse standpoint, like Miguel Rojas said last night, he goes, I found this very interesting. He said, these young guys can't get down because this is the young guys team. Mm-hmm. And they got to kind of enjoy the moment and rather than let this beat them up. And he hopes that these young players on this team don't do what he did as a young player. Because when you come up, if you're Mike Trout or Stanton or someone, Harper, someone that just their ability just jumps off the charts and you make the game look easy, you can enjoy your first couple of, but when you're a guy that's got to fight to be in the big leagues, which is like 95% of everyone, mm-hmm. You already have the and you come up and you're being exposed for little things early on until the light clicks for you. It can work you up. And then next thing you know, you question yourself, and he's wanting these guys to to keep their head up and to enjoy it. No one enjoys losing, but
Yeah.
you play better when you're relaxed,
Hmm.
rather than uptight, and just play and let, sometimes the fearless teams are the ones that do the most damage. So it's all a journey. I'm not shocked at all they got off to a slow April. I kind of anticipated it,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. So
On
the
paper, this team
yeah,
it's just not
yeah,
major. It's just
yeah,
not a major league team that's going to win games, and
yeah,
that's
in
not the
huge numbers
purpose of
right
the
now.
stadium. I mean, this season. Sorry, this
Yeah.
season really is. I mean, if you're a Marlins fan expecting to win more than 70 games, then you're watching for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. So you're looking at like last night's game. My takeaway is you could look at it. Oh my God, we blew the game at the Mets. I look at that. I fully anticipated them taking two of three from the Mets.
Hmm.
Coming back from Philly, I'm like, they're going to beat the Mets 2 of 3. And in both games, the last 2 games, they're up in the eighth inning and blew the game.
Hmm.
So those are the Mets have what, 10 wins, and 6 of them are comeback.
Yeah.
They're not that as good as that. No one
Yeah.
is. So that's going to flip, and you're not going to always blow the lead in the eighth. So you look at it and say, if you're Marlins fans, I kind of put they should have won those two, and they should have beaten the Red Sox in that extra inning game. The Maben hit. If that throws a little offline and Bour's safe, that's a walk off win. So
Hmm.
those are the 3 games I look at as okay. Now you're 3-9, and that's 6. You got 6 wins, and you subtract from the other end, so it's still a sub 500 team, but it's not as ugly as it looks.
Yeah.
So
I was reading
that's
a
what.
article at I think it was on Beyond the Box Score or something like that. Some webpage. I don't know much. I'm not familiar with them. They're talking about how the Marlins are off to this like historically bad start, but I feel like all that's just skewed from 20-1.
Yeah, I mean, how good are the Rays right now? How good are the Royals? I mean,
Yeah.
the Tigers. I mean, they may finish with the fifth worst record. Everyone thinks this is automatically because they lost 20-1 to the Phillies. That game, you're going to have that's going to happen from time to time. But you're going to get your handed to you on certain nights. But look, I know you're smart enough on the game, and I see a younger generation of baseball fans, especially the Marlin fans, that are getting it. And I'll tell you this much, for all the rebuilds that I kind of have been doing, this one is by far, I think, that the fans get it.
Hmm.
And the reaction in when Jeffrey, traded Reyes and those guys after 1 year moving to a new ballpark was much worse, much worse. But to a lot to the media people here, or those that will pick up on that, they'll sit around and say, "Oh my God, people on Twitter or whatever." Well, I have more people on Twitter that are for it. No one's 100% for it, and I don't expect them to be. And as a fan, you're paying your money and you're investing your time. You obviously want the best results you can see as fast as you can get them. But you could look at it this way: if you go with the veteran team and it fails, which I didn't see any way that was sustainable. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of GMs wouldn't have come in here saying, "Hey, you know what? Let's throw money at this." And now all of a sudden Stanton underperforms. You can't move him. You're stuck with that contract. Or even if he did perform, no one could get hurt, and you risk going over the luxury tax, which would have been completely devastating, and still been at best the second wild card for a 1 year run. And on the flip side, you don't get the return for a Yelich that you just got, the return for Ozuna that you just got. You get, there's no return for Stanton. All he's going to do is be miserable and play until he opts out just to
Hmm.
get out of here. And that's going to be an ugly situation. You know, where are the people, filling the seats when those guys were doing their stuff? With all I kept hearing, and I was, being ripped for on TV and radio, was saying, "Oh well, if they when they're good, why should we go? Because they're just going to trade everyone."
Yeah.
And then when you're bad, you say, "Oh, they traded everyone." So I think more fans get it, and I think part of that is from 13 on is what happened in that time. The Astros showed you can do it. The
Hmm.
Cubs showed you can do it. The Phillies are showing it. The yes, I mean you could look at that word tanking or whatnot. If you don't have enough in your organization to compete, what really are you winning? I mean, if you won 60, they won 68 games or 75, 80, 81, and 81 would make the fan base happy, and
No, it's purgatory.
yeah, yeah, that's the worst place to be in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be at one of the extremes. You got to win 90 games to be a legitimate team. So how do you get there? And how many teams are really there? Dodgers are legit. The Astros are legit. The Cubs are legit. I'm not sure the Yankees or Red Sox are either one are legit 90. One will get there. Maybe both will get there, but I can't automatically say, oh my God, those teams are winning 97 games. So you're basically at a time if you're, where the Marlins were, I'll give you this quick example, Michael. Spring training, early games, and great having the Astros and the Nationals right down the road, and the Mets right up the road. So you have really early on the MLB networks going nuts. You had Syndergaard against Verlander at the Palm Beaches. The split squad game. The Astros, okay, the Verlander, Syndergaard, everyone's talking about that. The Astros send their split squad team up to Jupiter to play the Marlins. They got, Bregman in the lineup, Marisnik, Evan Gaddis, I think Marwin Gonzalez. They had Martez pitching. I'm like, this split squad team is like better than like half of the spring training team. Like their split squad roster was like as good as then. So I'm like, that's how you knew you got a playoff team.
Yeah.
When your split squad team isn't, guys like, oh my God, I'm not going to spend money for that. You're sitting around looking at every one of those guys was a big leaguer with a track record.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a pitcher who's a promising kid, so it's that's the measure. It's the measure, you've probably seen me on Twitter or whatever. It's depth, man. It's depth. Give me as many Chris Taylor type players as you can and sprinkle in a couple of legit all-stars. And now you got something. It's not about having the MVP, the Cy Young winner and nothing else. And, we had seen, and the players knew it. It's too much pressure on those players.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
My fear though is, Derek Jeter coming from such a winning background is that it becomes like the old regime where they would show some promise and they would think they were closer than they actually were. Do you think the Jeter, the CEO guy, is going to be patient? Because that was the problem with the old regime, like 2013. That was a great. I mean, I was all for the rebuild back then. I think that 2012 team had no chance of succeeding ever either. And 2013 comes in and they had they started off terrible, like because they just had a bad roster. But then the Yelich's came in, the Marisniks came in, the Ozunas came in, and they looked decent. They had one of the best records from May to
until they faded in September. Yeah.
And then 2014, they did the right thing. They didn't do much, and then they added a Casey McGee and a Garrett Jones, and they were decent for the first half. And then they started to think they were closer than they were, and they started trading off these prospects. I just hope that, next year, Lewis Brinson takes a big step, Anderson takes a big step, and they're close, and then you see Monte Harris go on a trade.
Yeah, it's part of organizational depth is to have those pieces to make those kind of moves. But this is where you're going to have to say that Gary Denbo is the most valuable guy in the organization because he's, really good at development and really good. And he's aware that they still need a lot more players. So I think there's a realization. And I think that, like they're using the word sustainable. Like I'll give you this quick aside on when they traded for Straley. And obviously threw Castillo in the deal. I don't think that there are people telling Jeffrey, you can't trade Castillo. We could probably get Straley, but let's see if we get Straley without getting Castillo in that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give him something else. And it was almost to the fact where obviously he knew that it was going to be short term and there were already rumblings he was going to sell the team. He says in his mind, Straley helps us win more in 17 and and Castillo does. So let's just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
That can't happen.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. You can't trade a player because another team finds that's the one player in your roster in your organization they want. Because
Mm-hmm.
there were teams that were wanting to do that with Anderson. That could have been happening. That could have been, they could have got rid of Anderson, and at the time, no one, except for maybe someone like you who pays attention, might have been yelling. But many people wouldn't have yelled because people, who's Brian Anderson? They have no one in their system.
Mm-hmm.
So they got guys. So the question is you're going to have to when the time comes to make trades that you're not, that you're kind of recognizing what you're doing. Now, we don't know. I can't answer that they won't, get a little trigger happy and say, "Oh my God, we're right here."
Mm-hmm.
But there seems to be an organizational discipline that's there in a reality. I don't think this is let me make this clear. I think this is a 3-year thing.
A 3-year.
I think that, I'm not buying 7 years. 7 years. That's everyone's arbitration.
Yeah.
But that's just throwing, something
Mm-hmm.
against the wall. It's like, secondly, though, I don't think they have that. This is from my perspective, Michael, that's unique about this all the years I've been on this team. And I'll go back when in 05 when they, after that season, they decided to take it down. They kept Willis and Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah.
So you had an MVP type player, and certainly an all-star. You had an all-star pitcher, a frontline all-star caliber pitcher who had 120, an infielder, a big-time hitter, middle of the order, proven guy ready to ring, and had been in a couple of all-star games. And then you filled in around them, and those two guys kind of set the tone. Then you take it to about 9 when that team was kind of reshaping itself. You had Josh Johnson, who was pitching at an all-star level. And you had Hanley Ramirez, who was ridiculous, 3-time All-Star right there. So you had a MVP runner-up, and you had a guy who led the National League in ERA one year.
Mm-hmm.
Then you take it to 13. You had Stanton, MVP guy, and you had Jose, Rookie of the Year, a certain All-Star. We don't have that. We don't have – Brinson isn't Trout. Brinson isn't our, or maybe he's Victor Robles. I don't know if Victor Robles is going to be as good as they think, but let's get another example. But, Brinson isn't that guy, and Alcantara isn't that guy. But we have more other guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So who's truly going to be is it going to be it could be this year's pick? I think we're picking 12th or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it could be that guy. It could be, somebody will step up and be, this is legit. This is top 5 player at this position. This is a top 5 or so National League MVP guy. But I also don't have anything. It's unique for me covering it to have a team that doesn't have that dynamic of all eyes are on Stanton, all eyes are on Jose Fernandez. It's all eyes aren't on it. This is going to be a team. This is going to have to do it with a team hitting philosophy, with pitching effectively, and getting good arms like this Pablo Lopez kid who's throwing 96 in spring training, who's going to be up here at some point, and Miranda, and then you're going to see Zach Allen's already looking good. Didn't look in spring, but it's looked good in Nola, and obviously Sandy. Those are going to be 5 guys that are going to be, up in this rotation, Hernandez, a kid like that. All these guys got a lot of talent. Mm-hmm. That's the encouraging thing, and the other thing, and I think the blueprint too is going to be that there's a kind of a organizational belief, I believe, that they think position players are easier to get than pitching. So mm-hmm. Get your pitching to where you feel it can contend. Once you get it there, then you start filling in those, that's where, okay, I need a free agent. Boom, here we go.
Yeah. I've always been the type where you have to build pitching through your organization, and you can get infielders through free agency, through trades, through that. Yeah. But when the Marlins were in their best shape of an organization a few years ago, they had Nicolino, they had Heaney, they had Disclafani, they had what's his name?
Martes.
Yeah. They had all these guys, and that's when they looked best. I mean, they used them as assets for other trades, but they could have. There's another route we could have gone there to make that team. Which, to my opinion, I think the start of the end of the core was like, the Straley. Well, the Straley trade happened. Like obviously the Jose tragedy was what ended everything, but I think the team could have would have been in a better direction if they didn't give up so much for D Gordon. Because I think like how you were saying with Straley, you could have gotten D Gordon without giving up Heaney.
Yeah, you probably could have took. Yeah, but they also got Rojas.
Is there any truth to they wanted Nicolino straight up
for
D?
For
D. I've read that a few times that the Dodgers initially asked Nicolino straight up.
I hadn't heard that, but I tell you this, I did hear this, that the Dodgers at one point, Nico at double, when he was really good, like the pitcher of the year in Double-A, and that team I think won a ring.
Yeah,
he had a really plus curveball.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the same people, and I heard the Dodgers were one of those teams that asked what happened to that curveball. Like there was something in his development happened where all of a sudden a plus curveball one year where he looked like he'd be a legit guy, and next thing you know, that had gone away. So all of a sudden he's throwing a cutter, now he's wanting to throw a slider, and but Michael, also to your point, what if they didn't mess up on Brett Hand?
Yeah,
and I was yelling about that, and it was like you can't just let that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care if he had the worst spring training in the history of spring trainings.
Yeah,
he was out of options because you guys didn't know how to use him right.
Yeah.
But then you quit on him, and everyone wanted him out the door. And my end too. A lot of people in the press box wanted him out the door, and I'm like, wait, no,
mm-hmm.
no. And people got all over me. Oh, but that just doesn't happen. So the people have to kind of wear it a little bit too. You can't sit around and go, if you didn't see it. But you're going to appreciate this. Where they're headed organizationally. Now everyone's there anyway. It's analytics clearly have won the show. It's clearly an analytical game. But it's not even the analytics that I think you even were big on 3-4 years ago are even more subtext of where.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Where Statcast is taking it, and the beauty of now spring training. I'm not looking at. I got some people help me out with a little bit of TrackMan data, but I'm not seeing spin rates. I'm not seeing exit velos. Now Statcast is up running. We're 10, 11 games into this thing. You're seeing. I know why Caleb Smith's their number 2 starter.
Yeah.
Go look at his spin rate and his fastball.
Mm-hmm.
It's more towards elite than not. When this guy's striking 7-8 guys out in 5 innings, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
That trade, because and Garrett Cooper, it's a shame that he's going to be out a while.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't going to be 10 days. Yeah, this is going to be a while. Maybe he may have to be a 60-day candidate at some point, but he'll be back. Mm-hmm. That trade, that's how this team's going to really make it. Because that trade's a steal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've heard good things about Michael King. He did well at Greensboro, and they gave that and $250,000 of international signing bonus for a guy he's not a legit 2, but he's a legit guy, and Cooper could be a 20 homer guy.
Yeah,
guys like that impact the baseball like that just aren't available. So those are the type of trades where you're going to get real players from a deep organization like the Yankees. And but they're looking at that spin rate stuff. They're looking at extension. I just did an inbox today, and it'll be out. It hasn't hit online yet. About Ben Meyer. You familiar with him?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's up in AAA now, and I'm glad someone asked about him. And he's like an extension guy. Where his extension is plus. He throws 92. That extension at 6.5 makes it play 94, and he hides the ball really well. This is going to be a fun story when guys like that's a 29th round pick at the University of Minnesota. That's going to be a guy that no one's ever talked about. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be the development. And what before, when you're not looking at extension spin rates, you're making quick reads on people. You're doing 100% by the eye test. You can look at him and say, "Here's a 6.5 guy throwing 92. He's a 5th starter. What if that guy's a 3? That's a 29th round pick. That to me, as someone who covers this team, that to me is the fun part.
Yeah.
And as a fan, when the fans see that, now you don't want to spend 10 years doing this. I get that. We want to see results. This is the big leagues and you want to see results. But when this thing comes together, it's going to be because of the Ben Myers of the world, the Garrett Cooper and Caleb Smiths of the world that are going to come in. And then, they get that plum free agent or that guy that's the smart pick. And then at the time, it's in sync with, naming rights on that ballpark, TV deal, some real revenue coming in, and next thing you know, this division is going to flip pretty fast.
Yeah. So you like 1,000% believe in this new team. This
yeah. And now are there going to be mistakes? Of course. Jeter. The thing. Keep this in mind with Jeter. He is smart enough to know he doesn't know everything.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest flaw of Jeffrey Loria is Jeffrey was smart enough to think he knew everything.
He was a little arrogant.
So and Jeffrey would be right. He'd take pride. I told him to trade for so and so, and it worked out. And he would be right, but he also would be hand through poorly. Get him out of here.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with Carlos Marmol had a good winter ball.
Right?
Yeah, he had a good winter ball. So that's where as long as Dembo is doing, this guy's got such a track record.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 8 out of 9 Yankees farm teams went to the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
And Aaron Judge 3 years ago, no one was sitting around going, he's the best player in baseball.
Yeah.
Or in that conversation, everyone was laughing at that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, and the other thing I'm hearing why I'm encouraged too is, and I had a scout friend at spring training tell me, he goes, "Hey Joe, I just got back from the DR, and as I'll tell you this much, your team is all over every player in the DR." They said everywhere we turn around, they're Marlins people.
Mm-hmm.
There is just kind of this commitment, and there's an identity to the type of player they want, and I like the players that Dembo wants.
Mm-hmm.
If you notice, and this is going to be fun to keep an eye on this, walks to strikeouts in the minor leagues. The guys that they're going to be getting are, for the most part, strike throwers with clean deliveries. The athletes they're getting, the position players they're getting, are profile middle of the field athletes who could flank to the corners if it doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
And so look what they have, when Sierra gets here and if Braxton Lee's around, you got 3 center fielders.
Mm. Yeah.
Obviously, one's going to play there. Joe Dunan, he's playing shortstop?
Yeah.
He ain't going to play shortstop up here, but he's going to play it as long as he can play it. And that bat so far playing with the Hammerheads, that's what they're identifying. And so it's not, Adam Connolly, when he was going well, still has that lot of moving parts delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Kolek, who they drafted, has this a lot of moving parts delivery. Sandy Alcantara, now he may not hide the ball as effectively as they like. Pretty clean, easy delivery. Tayron Guerrero. How much were we talking about Tayron Guerrero in the offseason? Because I can tell you how much I talked about him. 0.
Yeah.
I didn't even have him as a guy. I didn't, and I didn't even take him seriously until the final 2 weeks of spring training when it was obvious you had to. And what happened, if you look at his walks to strikeouts and innings, no one would have put, now all of a sudden, now he hits the guy last night, but his delivery looks a lot simpler at 6'8", whatever, to the ball. It looks like he's almost trying not to throw it 104. And he's like throwing it over the plate, and that's legitimate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So development, they're players here. It's developing them and then identifying which ones you think you can win with and not making a hasty decision.
Yeah, it seems like the old regime would have just told him, use that fastball. We'll get the control down later. And
then what would have happened? He would have been DFA'd
all over the place. Yeah, because he was interesting to me because I believe he was in the Cashner trade, right?
Yeah.
I know he came from San Diego.
Yeah. Cashner trade, correct.
Cashner trade. And
he was a throw-in. Yeah.
Yeah, and he looked interesting to me because any 6'8" pitcher is going to be an interesting guy, especially if he throws 104. And then he just became an afterthought. because he had reached with San Diego at one point for a little bit, and then he just, I think he struggled in AAA. And then when I saw him, the spring training numbers this year, I was like, I thought it was crazy that he put it together and was going to make the team, and now it looks like he's legit.
He might be a closer.
Yeah.
If you look at it, okay, everyone in the world, and I'm sure the fantasy people will be jumping up and down on this one, because Steckenrider seems earmarked to be the next closer, right? It's like if you get, and it may pan out. Mm-hmm. But who's the guy? If you just say, forget, who do you want to pitch the ninth inning that the other team's going to have the hardest time even putting the ball in play against? It might be Teheran Guerrero. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I wouldn't even rule him out. I'm not sure they're there. But I wouldn't even rule that out, that you got at least – that's why, with Donnie, and I know Donnie was kicking himself going with O'Grady, because to me, I'm like, what are you doing? I want to see whether the odds say it, to get – because, like I said, they stayed with Conforto and Gonzalez. Wouldn't you want to see Guerrero try to get that for him? Now, so what happens if he comes in? Okay, he hits Plawecki. You hate to see that. He gets the strikeout. I think it was Lagares. And then he punches out Conforto and Gonzalez, or gets one of the two to hit weak contact and gets a clean inning outside of the hit batter. Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, if Claw's struggling, you're like, hey, you know what? The hottest team in baseball, you made them look pretty. Now you got another eighth inning guy, and then you hope Brad does his thing in the ninth and gets 3 outs before something. But I wanted to see that. I didn't want to see 2 batters and then go lefty. Mm-hmm. So because if you notice, the Mets didn't turn around and go with a right-handed pinch hitter once the lefty came in. They just went left on left and won the battles twice.
Mm-hmm. So one last thing before we end this is Alcantara. Is he down for a while, or is he a Acuna rule thing?
Oh, you mean like a quick come up? Yeah, just correct the year. I anticipate he.
Because the deadline, it's today, right? Wouldn't it?
It's like the 12th or something like that. Yeah. It's not like, oh my God, tomorrow, because he's pitching tonight in Colorado Springs there. As much as Sandy is service time is always a factor. I'm not going to ever pretend it's not, because there are really no accidents in the way I look at a baseball. So if we're ever like talking and people are listening to this, I always believe everything happens for a reason. I think guys get hit on purpose, even when they said or not. I think that everything's done with a reason. If you got hit, it's probably because last night Plawecki getting hit wasn't. But service time matters. But this guy threw 120 innings last year. Mm-hmm. They want to get him to about 140 this year. Do you want those 140 to cover him through the end of September, or do you want those to cover him in April through August, and then all of a sudden, he's being shut down in August.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want.
So and the other thing with Sandy is Brinson made this team because he just did so well in spring that they couldn't do it. Sandy showed just enough weakness, just enough holes in his game to say you're in AAA.
Yeah,
and the plan's still the same. Mm-hmm. So when you look at Sandy as innings management, if you guys what I wrote last Friday's off day on MLB.com and Marlins.com, go back and look at that. I talked to Michael Hill in depth about all of those young pitchers. That's going to answer a lot of questions on how this is going to kind of come in waves. And it's by design, and obviously service time is going to be built into that. But it's not as simple as, oh, they got him. If this team, the Braves also may feel they're more ready to compete, because the Braves probably are as good as the Mets. And when this is all said and done. So Acuna helps the Braves win more games in April.
Yeah.
The Marlins, with their longer range vision, what is Sandy gaining you? Like I said, Harlan may be the guy that's all of a sudden in August we're like, man, but he was so good from April to late July. Now he's getting sent back, and you're saving a little service time and controlling the innings a little better. So, That's my thing with Sandy. It's not so much, hey, get him up here. You just keep him down short term enough. When the Cubs did it with Brian a couple of years ago, well, the Cubs were looking at the playoffs, so that made sense for them. So I think it's where your team is, as an organization, and And I think the way Rob Manfred explained it, I think I heard him say something to the effect that teams have every right to kind of manage their rosters to be as good as they are when they can be good.
Yeah.
Kind of paraphrase. And that's where the Marlins are right now. There's really no reason. I mean, the service time being spent right now is on Lee, it's on Brinson. I'm sure I'm missing something. Harlan. There'll be a few guys, but there's a reason why Pablo Lopez, who got hit by a comebacker, who they're really taking it easy with him to let him kind of hit that double-A rotation. The later, the better. Alicia Hernandez, hey, the little broken nail, it sets him back even more. If that gets him up here where he could help more in June, July, August, the better. So I think, it's these are kind of unintended consequences, but I think they're kind of helping in roster management.
Makes sense. I appreciate this so much, Joe. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, this is awesome. Let's do it again.
For sure. Anytime.
Okay, buddy. All right.
Bye.
See you.